I ara sí, parlarem de més enllà de la neu, que és una adaptació al canvi climàtic, la desestacionalització i la necessitat que hi ha, evidentment, de reinventar l'oferta turística de muntanya. Parlarem dels futurs, del destí de la neu i de com depèn aquest també de la capacitat d'adaptació i dels efectes que pot tenir el canvi climàtic. S'explorarà el paper de la innovació i la sostenibilitat per la creació d'experiències més immersives, conscients i memorables, i destacarem la importància de fomentar un equilibri entre el desenvolupament turístic i el benestar de les comunitats locals. Així doncs, donem pas ara en aquesta última sessió, Beyond Snow, Mountain Destinations Adapting to Climate Change. La introducció anirà a càrrec de la directora d'Intel·ligència Artificial i del Departament Regional d'Europa de la UN Tourism, Cordula Wenmutter.
Thank you so much. Bon dia, buenos dias. I know we are very close to lunch, which was just announced, high altitude lunch. Everybody wants to eat and wants to try the good Andorran food. So let's be fast. I will not be long because I want to introduce the session to presenting findings of a research that we are doing together with some member states. So I'm the Regional Director for Europe in the World Tourism Organization. I work on a daily basis with 41 member states that are committed to develop a sustainable, inclusive and responsible tourism sector. Obviously, there are lots of issues to be done because tourism is a complex issue per se. My mentor always said that tourism is not marketing, is not management, is not economics, is not psychology, not anthropology and not geography. It's all this and much more. So we in UN Tourism, together with the member states, are challenged in finding solutions to problems that the tourism sector faces with its growth. We have enormous growth in the European region. That means what we do in UN Tourism, we work on all dimensions of tourism. If this is now the development of frameworks for measuring the impact of tourism through statistics or through the development of indicators in all three sustainability areas, or it is workforce related and decent work or innovation, artificial intelligence. We are doing lots of activities, and usually how we are doing this, we are asking our member states what are their priorities, what are the challenges they face, and then we develop a program of work. In recent times in the European region, we have taken an additional, slightly different approach, namely to give member states the opportunity to propose a specific project that reflects the needs of several countries in the regions. And it was about 1.5 years ago that we received the proposal of Switzerland to look into the topic of the impact of climate change on mountain and snow tourism destinations. And from this moment on, UN Tourism, with our internal knowledge, came together with Switzerland and several other member states for which the topic is highly relevant. And we have now a steering committee in place, not only Switzerland that leads the process, but we have also Austria, Slovenia, France, Georgia, and of course Andorra partnering with us on this. And the beautiful thing of this is that it is this shared knowledge of the member states with UN Tourism and the academia that has been brought on board, where we engage it's a shared journey. We are traveling together, and today we are presenting you the findings of this journey. And here it is not so much about presenting our findings, it's more the stopping here in Andorra, reflect on the findings, share them with you. And I think there's no better place to do this than here in beautiful Andorra that is hosting the Congress, they're hosting us. And with this, I would like to thank everybody involved in this. The work is very important. It has been mentioned also by the head of government of Andorra. The livelihoods of many, many people depend on the future of the mountain and snow tourism destinations. Lots of economic growth are there, but obviously the impact of climate change is a huge issue. It is important to look at. We need to be prepared. We need to adapt to these new realities on the ground. So the findings are really relevant, and I wish to thank especially also Switzerland for the idea and the leadership in this, and Andorra for being board on this and hosting us today. With this, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I give the floor to my dear colleague Richard Kempf. He's the head of policy, tourism policy in the Swiss in the Swiss Economic Secretariat of Economic Affairs. No, State Secretariat of Economic Affairs of Switzerland. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, Cordula, for your kind words. Dear ladies and gentlemen, it's a pleasure to be here in beautiful Andorra, right in the heart of the Pyrenees. There could be no better place to deal with our topic, climate change and the future of mountain and snow tourism destinations. On behalf of Switzerland, I would really like to thank our organizers, our host, the government of Andorra, and UN Tourism for giving us the opportunity to conduct this session today, to present results from this collaborative effort. We're really honored to chair this project. Our motivation for this project idea, for this proposal, which focuses on climate change and the future of winter destinations, stems from the impact climate change is having on Switzerland and its tourism industry. Climate change for the Swiss tourism industry is no longer a distant scenario, it's really a reality. And its impacts are particularly visible in mountain regions. Reduced snowfall, rising temperatures, and more frequent extreme weather events are challenging tourism destinations in Switzerland and, of course, across Europe and all over the world. For Switzerland, these transformations affect not only the tourism economy, but also landscapes and traditions that are central to our cultural identity. Few countries experience the effects of climate change on snow-reliant destinations as directly as we do. And at the same time, we believe that Switzerland has already some experience and best practices in climate adaptation measures in winter destinations, and we are also promoting sustainable tourism development, and it's our aim to share this experience. Now, proposing this project under the umbrella of this so-called Agenda for Europe within the UN Tourism Programme of Work is a possibility to do this in a collaborative way. I think this is really an interesting way of bringing together knowledge, of sharing expertise, and up to now this project has been really successful in our view. It's really a key initiative for the long-term sustainability and economic viability of snow and mountain-based tourism. And we firmly believe that this cross-border cooperation is key. No single destination, no single country can successfully address these challenges alone. Instead, we should, as I've said, exchange ideas, share best practices, and learn from each other. And I would really like to thank you, all my colleagues which are here present from the steering committee. I would also like to thank FAO Mountain Partnership, which has been presented. They're also supporting the project and bringing in their expertise. Now, in this session today, we would like to present you first results. It's the first time we present these results to a broader audience. And we're really happy to do this and to be able to do this. And for this, we have engaged our lead authors, Professor Christian Baumgartner and Melanie Tamburini from the University of Applied Sciences of Graubünden, one of our main tourism regions in Switzerland. It's in the eastern part of Switzerland. They will present us now the current state of the report, and then we'll have a session to discuss this in a panel. Please, Christian and Melanie, the floor is yours. You're already here. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Richard. Well, you know, presenters sometimes have a hard time, either before coffee break or immediately after heavy lunch breaks. I think we also have a hard time now because of, you've seen so many wonderful pictures and images and videos, partly AI created, partly influencer created, and now we're coming to negative trends, challenges, even crisis. Some people say Well, sorry to be out of that marketing bubble into tourism reality. And yes, climate change is one of the most pressing trends and challenges that we do have in not only in mountain tourism, but especially also in mountain tourism. When we dive now into this mentioned study, why are we going to do that? We do that because we would like to keep mountain tourism, we would like to keep winter tourism really alive. We would like to avoid disappointing pictures like this, both disappointing for the industry, but for the tourists as well. So what does data tell us already? What is already the consensus within the scientific world? And that's the first part of the study, really looking to the trends and to the different impacts. Well, the key message here is everything is faster than we expected. We thought that we have decades to go when climate change really is hitting us. We have years, and it's on. We do see climate change now. Every year temperature is increasing, we have temperature records every year, glaciers are melting, the number of days where you can do some technical snowing is decreasing every year, and, second part of the message, mountains react faster than the global average. We know that mountain tourism, mountain destinations face 2 to 4 times quicker and more intense climate change than the global average. That's alarming, that should be alarming for us. And what we also know, and we tried to look into the distribution, geographical distribution of the impact. We know that there is not an even and not an equal distribution. If you look to European skiing destinations, if we stay in this 2 degrees Celsius increased goal that we still have, we have more than 50% of the European destinations that are on high risks to face severe climate change impacts. That's the 2 degrees Celsius. But for example, looking to the Pyrenees, we're talking about 89% of the destinations, of the skiing destinations in the Pyrenees that face severe climate change. If we look to Scandinavia, also being more northern, they run 2 to 4 times faster into climate change than the global average. So it is it's an environmental impact, but it is of course also an economic impact. And what does it mean for the economy? If we look to European tourism values and volumes, we see that just the infrastructure has a value of more than 50 billion euros, and they are on risk. There was recently a study in Austria forecasting that by 2050, if we don't have really severe and very aggressive measures against climate change, by 2050 there will be an annual loss of more than 220 million euros per year. So the crisis is here. Till 2050, there will be a decrease of 30 to 40% of the suitable days for snowmaking. And at the same time, we have an increase in the operational cost for snowmaking for approximately the same amount. So it's not only an environmental crisis, or challenge, if you would like to prefer that word. It's an economic challenge that we have. And actually it goes beyond economy. It's not only about balance sheets, it's about people. It's about alpine communities, mountain communities. And this is what we often forget, that for many mountain communities, skiing is not just a business, it's a part of identity. And if this identity is lost, if the skiing industry declines, we have a lot of effects. Young people would not stay, young people would leave. Traditional knowledge is fading out. Schools are closing. Jobs are lost. There is even a medical kind of disease called solastalgia. This is the reaction to and the kind of the feeling of pain and grief if you see that your living surrounding, the place where you still live, is under negative tendencies. So there is something that we need to deal with. And it's good not only to talk about the negative trends and the negative impacts, it's also good to talk about solutions and adaptation strategies and possibilities. And here I hand over to my colleague Melanie. And you need that.
Thank you very much. Well, first of all, we'll be looking in what is working, what isn't, and why the gap between awareness and action remains so large. Here's a little paradox for the start. I want to cite the UN Tourism Survey they conducted last year, where 32 countries participated. We have a big 73% of the respondents who report significant or moderate climate change impacts in the last 5 years. Over 60% have observed visitor shifts, changing patterns due to the extreme weather. Yet, only 18% of those have already implemented strategies in order to fight climate change. We have a 27% who did partial actions, which is usually investing in snowmaking, in technical snowmaking. And a large 55%, so more than half, have minimal or no adaptation measures in place. This is what we call the adaptation gap. Why does it exist? Well, there's top major barriers. First of all is the lack of financial resources. We have high infrastructure costs. We have limited knowledge or technical skills, regulatory hurdles, and also quite important, short-term planning. Most of the destinations are planning 3 to 5 years in advance, yet climate change adaptation needs long-term thinking, maybe 20, 30 years from now. Let's talk about technical response and its limits. The dominant response was, of course, focusing on technical adaptations, investing in snowmaking, investing in protection of the glaciers, and also optimizing snow grooming. These are very valuable tools, but they only buy time. They don't solve the problem of itself. So, what else can destinations do? The danger is that the destinations invest heavily in those technical fixes and delay the harder work of business model transformation. The technical adaptation must be paired with energy transition and economic diversification, or it becomes a short-term band-aid on a long-term wound. So how or what does comprehensive adaptation look like? Let me show you 6 real examples. For the study, we studied 6 destinations across different climates, altitudes, and economic contexts. Each of those have different paths and different lessons to offer. We have St. Corona am Wechsel in Austria, who kind of quit winter tourism and turned into or focused into summer tourism, offering 365 days biking per season. We have Métabier in France, who is pursuing a managed retreat, scaling down lift infrastructure. Kope in Slovenia is highly investing in infrastructure for year-round facilities. Montanya in Switzerland is focusing on energy transition, and Andorra, today's host, is especially focusing on strong cooperation between tourism companies, the authorities, and also research. The last example in our cases is either in Turkey, which is attracting a lot of climbers next to winter tourism. We will hear more about the cases afterwards in the panel discussion. But technology and infrastructure aren't enough. Smart governance is critical. The successful destinations share another critical element, which is smart governance. They didn't wait for crisis to come. They acted when they still had options. This requires 3 things. First of all, it's the regional cooperation. Climate adaptation is not a competitive advantage, it is a collective challenge. Destinations that collaborate on infrastructure, on marketing, and on season balancing, they create more resilient regional ecosystems. Second is the long-term planning frameworks. Not 2 to 3 year plans, but as mentioned before, 30 years adaptation roadmaps with very clear milestones, financing strategies, and decision triggers are needed. Last but not least are transparent stakeholder management. When communities understand why it is necessary to change and have a voice in shaping this change, they will have the support that the transformation has or needs. So, smart governance turns into adaptation from a threat into an opportunity for innovation. And what have we learned from all this? Christian is presenting you the recommendations.
Thanks, Melanie. What have you learned? What would be a UN tourism study without recommendations to different stakeholders? And we can draw some conclusions and recommendations that are valid for all different destinations, no matter which altitude or which latitude they are, no matter in which economic state they are. First message here is act now. The longer you wait, the more expensive it will be at the end. Secondly, technology is necessary, and you heard that, but it's just a bridging measure. What we really need is a shift in the business model. Change the thinking from ski resort focus to all year-round mountain destination experience focus. What we also see in the different examples is if you just work top-down, this does not work. This does not function. Top-down adaptation strategies lack very often implementation. So involve all the stakeholders, involve especially your local communities, involve the people living in that areas. So we need to shift our mindset to, we need to transform our business models, we need to act now. This is relevant for all. But we do have, of course, in our pocket some specific recommendations for the different stakeholders. And first, looking to destination managers, to destination management organizations. Here, especially this shift in the mindset from the focus on winter resorts to all year-round destinations is very important. Trust in science. We do have climate change models, but in a destination, go into very specific calculations. What is the concrete impact of climate change? How resilient is your destination? And act then accordingly to that scientific results. Diverse your revenue strategy and your revenue streams early. Go to mountain biking, winter hiking, etc. Try to be more snow independent even in the winter season. Green your business. It is also about sustainable mobility. It's about a circular economy. It's about energy transition to more renewable energy. So you can do a lot of things within the destination. Just looking to the time I need to, well, I can't go into all the details. For the private sector, climate leadership could be really a competitive advantage. So act early if you run a business. Take climate scenarios into account when it comes to every single investment decisions. Think beyond 5 years return of investment. Think about the next 20 years. You are in a relation with your destination. Partner up with your community, partner up with governments. And again, energy transition is key for many of our businesses. For the governments, the big change, the big challenge here is to set frameworks to create an enabling environment that businesses, local communities, destinations can transform into year-round destinations. Set up transition funds for mountain tourism destinations. Give guidance by clear regulations. Network, and this is the same that goes into the recommendations for the international organizations. What's really key and what we miss at the moment is a network of good experiences, of good exercises between different destinations. What we lack is very often a cross-border cooperation. And this does not only relate to UN tourism, this relates to many international organizations, be it UN tourism, be it UNEP, be it the European Commission, be it regional associations like the Alpine Convention or the Carpathian Convention. They all can work on better networking, better funding for especially transformation in mountain tourism. So at the end, if we look to the recommendations, it is really visible that the window for action is now. And this window of opportunity that we still have for a proactive transformation, that's closing in the next 5 to 10 years. So the message that we draw from our studies really go to science, believe science, find strategies, implement them now and transform now. Because the mountains are calling, and they're not only calling for tourists, they call for action to be more resilient in the future. Well, we kept the time more or less. Thank you very much for the moment. And thank you, Melanie. And for our panel discussion, I would ask Richard Kempf back on stage. You know already Richard from the introduction. And I would also welcome Dubravka Kalin, Director General of the Tourism Directorate of Slovenia of the Ministry of Economy, Tourism and Sport. Give her an applause, please. Actually, there should be a fourth chair here on stage, and you see Markus Redl here. For private reason, unfortunately, Markus could not come to us, but you will see him virtually. And Markus Redl is CEO of EcoPlus Alpine, a company in Austria owned by the state of Lower Austria, and he's managing 9 different skiing resorts, and he was one of the case studies that we analyzed, and really amazing what they did in Lower Austria in a very low altitude. And so when we start, and maybe it's not polite to start with actually Markus, who's not present, but the first round of questions would go into reality check. And if Markus would be here, and I asked him before that conference, what his experience is, how severe the climate change impact on a low altitude destination like St. Corona am Wechsel is, and what he really experienced, and what his measure were. And now, Markus, would you come on stage? I hope we have sound as well.
Looking at the last 2 winters with so little natural snow, we have seen how incredibly well our snow management and technical snowmaking work in Austria. But let's be real, there are physical limits to this technical side of things. We need to move toward a more strategic adaptation. By now, year-round tourism is the industry standard. In Austria, our Beste österreichische Sommerbergbahnen initiative is turning 25 this year. To me, this initiative provides the perfect foundation for the next step, which is being ready to run summer attractions even in the middle of winter, whenever the opportunity arises. At the Wechsel Arena, we have developed what we call a hybrid operation. It actually started with a bit of improvisation. During those warm Christmas holidays, we opened the Alpine coaster to support the slopes. We also noticed that in winter, people increasingly just want to get above the fog and into the sun, even if they aren't doing any sports at all. Our Motorik Park, right next to the slope, proved this by keeping guests happy outdoors for much longer. Even with our new bike lift, the plan from day one was to have an offer that works all year round, right alongside the snow sports. Of course, the area we cover with snow will likely get smaller and will need to be managed more efficiently. But that actually frees up space and resources for these new hybrid ideas. Ultimately, altitude is important, but it's not the whole story. At the Wechsel Arena, we've learned that success comes down to how you use your specific assets. Our terrain is perfectly north-facing, and the topography and geology are just ideal for taking this new path.
Thank you very much, Markus. Dubravka, coming to Slovenia. Slovenia was facing the most very warm winters recently, and you're amongst the countries with the fastest warming rates. On a national level, what do you see? What is the pressure? How do you react? What's going on in Slovenia?
Well, in Slovenia, most of our ski areas, mountain centers, are below the snow level, below the 1,500 meters. So we are dealing with so-called green winters for decades. Of course, there are some oscillations, sometimes better, sometimes no. But on the other hand, we had to address those challenges very quick. Otherwise, we would really had to close down many of them. So we started with changing of narrative. We are not talking about ski areas anymore. We are talking about mountain centers. We started a very difficult process of diversification, and we invested more than 55 million euros to make this diversification of products, of offer. I read when I was preparing for this panel that still 46% of young people expect snow in the winter centers, but opposite older generations, they are more ready to maybe go and use another activities. So from the point of view of PR, we just give a sandbox to PR and they can quite fast change the mindset, but that will not be enough because of the cost explosion, because of the changing consumer behavior, because of the regulations, social, and also we are some places really very close to lose a social license of tourism to do the business because local people sense that the tourism brings many impacts. And of course, environmental constraints, safety questions, and that is leading to changing models. So business models in those areas, that's why we really needed to start from the ground.
Mm. So you already started action. It's good that you also did change the narrative. That's very important. Yeah. Looking to Switzerland, I mean, Switzerland is still well known as a winter sport destination. Your unit in the State Secretary developed this famous snow compass to look to resilience of destinations. What's going on in Switzerland? Would you underline what Markus and Dubravka are saying?
Yes, of course. I think what we see in Switzerland, winter tourism, snow-based tourism is at the heart of our tourism industry, and this 3 to 4 months during winter is the core business for almost all alpine destinations, and this is now changing. And I think a lot of these destinations, they have realized that this is not a future scenario, it's a reality now, and they have to do something. And what we see is that there is a lot of uncertainty how to react now. You have seen this survey from UN Tourism. I would suggest in Switzerland it's the same. One half is really a bit stuck. What can we do now? The other half of the destinations, they either do something or they're perhaps 20%, as in the survey, they have already a clear strategy. And one of the of the key elements we saw is, or we see, is missing clear academic, scientific information. What will be the future look like? And for this, we developed this snow compass. This is a tool, and this tool, with this tool, it is possible to make forecasts for the natural snow conditions on destination levels, and also the possibilities for technical snowmaking in the future. It's the horizon is 2050, and now we are able to say in a specific destination, depending on the ski area, is it orientated to north or south? On a specific altitude, we can say in 2050, your snow conditions in 8 out of 10 winters will be like this. And on this basis now we hope that the destinations and the cable car companies will really analyze their business models and planify their investments into the future.
You say you hope that they do. Do you have already proof that they're interested, that they do react?
There's a lot of interest. We launched this tool last October, and since then we have a lot of discussions. We're trying to support also the destinations, the destination organizations, the cable car companies in using this tool. It's not so easy. You have to really have to work with it. But my first impressions are very positive. There's a lot of interest of how can we use this tool in our planning, in our strategies, and naturally it takes some time. But first reactions are very positive. I'm optimistic that this will be really the planning tool, not only for the destinations and the companies, but also for the authorities on regional level, but also on the national level, because we also use this tool to look if specific investments which are supported financially by us make really sense in the long term.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for that positive message. I mean, at the end, it's the consumer deciding where to go. And there was an interesting study end of last year in Germany looking to the German market. And they realized that by far the largest percentage of the German winter tourism makers would still stay in the resort once chosen, even if there is no snow, if they have the opportunity to do some other things. So it's really about the offer in the destinations. And here I would again like to ask Markus about his situation. Nowadays, 2/3 of the revenues in St. Corona am Wechsel coming from summer tourism, which is rather new. And I would be interested in what was the key measure, the key step to make that really workable, so this hybrid model they have. Could we ask Markus? Second.
To be perfectly honest, the biggest risk for ski resorts today isn't just not being able to make snow. It's the risk that we invest heavily in producing it and then it disappears overnight because of warm winds or rain. That's why we need what I call economic hedging. We have to build other pillars of business alongside the snow, so we have a safety net, whether the winter is white or green. This was a very deliberate strategic pivot for us. We realized that even if the snow offering is smaller, we have to improve and expand everything around it. The goal is to make sure the reason for the visit, the length of stay, and the spending per guest still add up. A key part of this is reaching entirely new guest groups. People who visit during the winter month but have absolutely nothing to do with snow sports. We've seen that it's not necessarily the same people coming in summer and winter. There is an overlap, but there is a huge potential in those who just want the mountain air, the views, and the sun. Economically, we have to face the fact that winter infrastructure is quite expensive to operate. The math starts to work much better when we can use that infrastructure for multiple purposes, or when we can focus our snowmaking on smaller, more efficient areas. By spreading our fixed costs over a 12-month operation, we create a more stable base that makes the destination far more resilient to the weather.
Let's talk a little bit also about the other cases that we investigated. Switzerland, Crans-Montana has a completely different situation, high altitude, they still can maintain winter tourism, but even Crans-Montana is trying to go into a 50-50 winter-summer distribution. Would you see that four-season model or two-season model, however you see it, all over Switzerland, or is it an example, an exception that we see in Crans-Montana?
It will be the standard in the future, the four-season tourism for alpine destination. Absolutely, we're not yet there, and Crans-Montana is a best practice example because they're running in a high altitude skiing area up to 3,000 meters. Their snow reliability is quite high and will remain high, and they're also heavily investing in technical snowmaking and improving and developing their skiing area. But this is not the only thing they're doing. They're also investing in all-year tourism, four-season tourism, and this is what they're really doing very well. They have started with becoming an all-year tourism destination years ago, without the direct necessity, because they have still this possibility to run a high-altitude skiing area. And they have realized this is not, we have to develop our destination into an all-year tourism destination. And when I look around in Switzerland, other destinations, they're still focusing on snow-based winter tourism. And what we try to is to support them to start with your individual starting point as a destination, and to become an all-year tourism destination in 10 or in 20 years. And then you have to reflect what investments does I need to do. It has been said it's not so easy, because you have to decide where do we invest our money, in which product development. And I think for this you need a clear strategy, you need clear databases, and I think this is what we try to support also with our project with you in tourism, and actually we hope to provide some information for our destinations.
National support for destinations and investments, right investments. Key when we look to Kope, Slovenian example, we realized that they also managed to shift from a 3-month winter model to a more or less 12-month year-round model, with the enormous support of up to 30 million euro, mainly EU funds. This was the result here that we heard. What is the Slovenian strategy on that? In how far can you as a ministry support destinations in the transformation process? What are you doing?
Well, the problem of the mountain center is that, first of all, they are dealing with very expensive infrastructure. On the other hand, it's workforce intensive, and also energy expensive and so on. So for them it's very difficult to operate, especially on a low altitude, as since Slovenia is in the eastern tail of Alps with very low altitude of the ski slopes, which means it's very hard for them to operate. That's why state tries to help them, because we calculated that every euro that we put in winter centers, we get 4 to 6 euros out. So that's the very big impact, not only for the ski resorts, but for the whole regions. And as you mentioned, Kope, they really successfully run for many different funds, and they got investment for the infrastructure, also for the hotels and so on. But on the other hand, this is now one of the top mountain centers in Slovenia, because when we started to with tenders, we had to decide whether we give to all 68 little centers a little bit of something, or we put more money in the centers where we see there's some potential to really that they have some future opportunity to be good and to do something. But of course, our condition was you have to be able to operate at least 9 months a year, so it's almost all year round tourism, because otherwise it would be really useless if we don't monetize all the infrastructure we have in those mountain centers.
Would you think it is about finances, or so is the awareness already here, and is it really finding the money for the transformation, or do we need to invest first in the awareness and in the sensibility for
I think it's the mix of both. First of all, you have to recognize that you have a problem with all the factors around you, because you cannot function alone in this area. And then, of course, financing all that, at least in Slovenia, is a problem. So the states and the private sector, we just needed to combine forces to do something and to push forward. And I think at this moment we still have ratio 30-70, which means 30 in the summer season, 70 in the winter season, but these numbers are now getting slowly, percentages are getting close to each other. And now the mindset really needs to shift from snow-dependent to snow-assisted offer and products. I mean, I think that here is the main point.
Okay. Coming from the national overview to concrete tools also to support the business, to data management, to maybe AI tools. We're talking about AI in that conference as well. Richard, you mentioned the snow compass as one concrete tools. Do you have other examples that are already used in Switzerland? Very often we have data silos not connected with each other, and we have big data, but we're not able to analyze them and to use them in the right way. Do you have good examples on that?
Perhaps coming back to the snow compass, there's a second element within this compass. It's concrete recommendations for different kinds of destinations, what or how their adaptation strategy could look like. We have three main options: stay with snow-based winter tourism. And the second option is deal with uncertain winter conditions. One winter is good, the other is bad. And the third option is for destinations on lower altitudes, give up really snow-based tourism. These are the three main options. And within these three main options, we have a total, we have 18 different concrete strategies. They are described and they're proposed. And now the destinations are invited to choose one or different from these 18 strategies and to create their own strategy. And if they do this, we then support them financially, either investment promotion, we support their investments, we support financially their innovative product development. And what we do also with our National Tourism Marketing Organization, we regroup the way we do the tourism marketing. We would like have a National Tourism Marketing Organization focusing on the shoulder season and not primarily the peak season. And the second aspect is we do marketing for specifically for remote areas, for little destinations, and not for the already very well known destinations. And we also do selective marketing in regarding on which markets we do really marketing. Specifically, markets like India or Brazil are interesting for us because they travel in different times during the year. And at the end, it's a mix of different measures. All the policy instruments need to be combined to support destinations in their decisions and their way to adapt to climate change. It's not only one single instrument or one single project. It's really it's a change in the way we do tourism policy.
It's still an open discussion if it
Absolutely.
makes sense to focus also on Indian and Chinese market when we combat climate change on the other hand. But this is ongoing.
It's a challenge. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah. Do you already have an example for a destination that did choose the third option, leaving winter tourism completely?
Yeah, there are some little ones, Sattelhochstuckli, for instance, or other little destinations. They have given up their skiing areas, and if there is snow in winter, there are still people going there because it's then quiet area, no skiers around. But normally they're focused more on hiking or cultural offerings. There are some smaller ones, but I think it's just the beginning.
Yeah. So they didn't give up winter tourism; they just gave up snowbound skiing tourism.
Of course, winter tourism remains a key element. Will remain a key element.
Yeah.
It will be no more snow-based tourism, but in wintertime it's quite agreeable to go up in the Alps to enjoy sun, and I think this is also what has been said by from the colleague from Wechsel Corona. people, if they cannot anymore do skiing in a resort, this doesn't mean that they are not coming anymore. They're coming and doing other things. They're coming and doing biking during winter times, for instance, or hiking.
Yeah, biking is the issue in St. Corona, and they already started more than 10 years ago with this transformation process. And I asked Markus what would be his single key most important measure on that path, on that way, and let's see the answer.
When we started the transformation of the Pixel Arena back in 2013, we already had some experience with other ski resorts that needed to become year-round mountain hubs. It was clear to us, even then, we had to specialize both in our target groups and our offerings. More than 10 years have passed since that decision, and while we see clear signs of success, progress, the development is far from over. A gentle transformation, one that maintains a specific snow offering while repurposing existing infrastructure, takes a lot of time. In the early 2010s, we worked closely with researchers like Bruno Abeck and Robert Steiger from the University of Innsbruck. We applied the climate change scenarios available at the time and built our strategies on that data. But here's the reality. The warming we have seen since then has followed the most pessimistic forecasts of that time. As an industry, we literally have no time to lose. My single most important piece of advice on timing is start now. We need to cooperate nationally and internationally on strategies that go far beyond just technical snowmaking. We have to support each other and share our results because as a collective we learn much better and much faster. The risk of waiting for a crisis is simply too high. The time to build your resilient future is while you still have the breath to do it.
Thank you. Well, our studies that we're currently doing recommends also to the national governments to invest in risk assessment, vulnerability assessments, and then also in the monitoring of climate impact. The question is, and this is the question to you, Dubravka, are data available? Can you do monitoring, or is this the first big challenge to find the data?
Slovenia is one of the most measured countries in the world. But the problem of this measurement is that we have a lot of data silos. That's why last June we launched the International Intelligence Hub, National Intelligence Hub, where we are collecting information from the destinations and also from some national databases. So it's for the destinations and providers easier to get data, also to compare between themselves. And now we are working on, of course, most important part, how to do forecasting, of course, with the help of AI and so on, because I think this will be the essential part later on. But yes, data, a lot of data is available.
Good. Is this the same for Switzerland? Data are available?
I think data is available, but we have the same issue as you have in Slovenia. It's often they are in silos, and it's not so easy to use them in a beneficial way. And I think this is what we now did with the Snow Compass is to really bring all this data together. This was really a cooperation between different players, with universities, with really the best expert in the climate change area, with a steering group, and we really created a model based on the best data available. And this was really a huge effort, I have to say. This was a huge work to do because different data are with different data owners, and you have to bring together, and you have to work together then, and to speak the same language. The statisticians speak a different language than the tourism guys, and to bring them together and to make the Snow Compass. One of the key topics was how do we present the results, these forecasts, in a way that they are understood by the destinations, not only by the experts. And this is a huge work we have to do.
Yeah. Translating science and scientific results into language that's understandable by all different stakeholders.
And it's interesting, as we have realized this, we are now organizing an OECD workshop end of the year, communication of sustainability indicators in tourism, just to discuss how can we better communicate and make it better understandable what we measure in the field of sustainable tourism development. Yeah. Because we have realized a lot of the players in the field, they just don't understand what we're producing in data and statistics. They just realize they're doing something, but it's not relevant for me. And we like to change the language also, how these data are presented or interpreted. Because if you have data but nobody works with it, and the people who are addressed do not understand it, then it's a pity.
We're running out of time a little bit, so we decided to skip lunch break. I think everyone agrees here. No, okay. Coming to a closing round, and if I would be Markus to summarize his key message, it probably would be trust in science, collaborate with all stakeholders, and act now. Dubravka, what's your key message? What's the taking from that panel?
I would say that really it's important that we understand that tourism cannot be done by one person or by one destination, and really all stakeholders on all levels need to collaborate, otherwise we will not succeed, especially because we don't want to lose social license, so we really need to be careful with all of it.
Thank you very much for that. Richard?
It goes to the same direction. I think adaptation to climate change goes beyond redefining business models for destinations. It's a cultural transformation process. It's about identity, about the understanding of the people in these villages, in these alpine areas. It's really a cultural change process we have to launch. We have to help them, and it's the responsibility of all of us, I think.
Thank you very much. With these wise words, we end that panel discussion. Thank you very much to you. Thank you very much to you for your patience.
Thank you.